College is expensive.
Americans owe more than $1.7 trillion in student loans.
One main factor that millennials are shying away from home ownership is student debt.
The White House says it is extending this pause on federal student loan payments until May 1st.
Despite government grants and student loan programs, low-income students still have the hardest time paying for college. In just the UC school system, around 60% of their lowest income students had to take out some form of student loan. And because of how expensive college is, many people have started to question whether or not it's worth it.
I think depending on who you talk to, you're going to get a lot of different answers on this.
This is my friend Hamilton, but I just call her Kathy. She's a recent first-gen college grad who's managed to pay off all of her student loans with just scholarships, and she's been pretty successful at it.
I think I had 7 scholarships when I graduated high school and a total of over $30,000.
Damn! For real?
Yeah.
So me and Kathy go into depth all the various techniques and strategies for students to find, apply, and win scholarships. Our goals in this interview are to show that even though it may take some work, there are ways to mitigate the cost of college. But first, let's answer the question, is college worth it?
I think depending on who you talk to, you're going to get a lot of different answers on this. And people who are not advocates of going to college in today's, climate, something that they say a lot is, you just don't need to go to college to be successful. You can start your own business, and you don't necessarily need to go to college to start your own business. For me personally, I think that college is about more than necessarily just the degree. I mean, the big argument from the other side is also, look, you get your degree and then it's still hard to find a job. So what was the point in the first place? And I can only speak from my own experience, but college is about more than the degree. So it's also about the experience and the growth and, having that time in your life that's specifically devoted to learning, which you're never going to get again if you don't go to college. A time in your life where people want to teach you. That is something we kind of take for granted through, elementary and secondary school. And then also, I have actually found my degree to be useful post-grad, even in something as simple as tutoring, which isn't something you need a degree to do, but because I have a degree, I can charge more. And so when I needed to start tutoring, that was a benefit of having a degree that I wouldn't have been able to have if, I hadn't gone to college. And that's just one really small example. But I think that when people are considering you for all types of jobs, it does really help to be able to say that you've been to college. Whether or not you actually end up using that major in the work is different, but it doesn't really matter. The point is that they want to know that you've been through a process of becoming educated and growing and becoming an adult, and that you can take what you learned in college into the work. And that doesn't have to be what you learned in your major. So many people don't end up going into careers in their actual major, and that's fine. That doesn't mean that college wasn't worth the experience, at least in my opinion. But other than that, all the scholarships that I had were attained locally. I was in AVID, so that helped because they were able to send us scholarships. But even if you're not a part of AVID, when you're doing your scholarship research, so yeah, you might come across these huge chain websites like FastWeb, which didn't actually end up providing me with any tangible opportunities, even though they say we have thousands of scholarships. None of them were actually attainable in my experience. But what is attainable is what are your local organizations and local businesses or people who are willing to support a disenfranchised student or who have a program in place to help disenfranchised students. And why is it more attainable? Because your net of competitors is much smaller. It's people in your area who want to give back to students in the area and to their community. And so there's already a much higher chance of you attaining that scholarship as opposed to competing to all of the students across the nation who are searching on FastWeb and see this scholarship for Latino students and I'm going to apply to that. So look locally, number one, most important. I actually don't even know what more I could say about that. That's what you should do is do local research. Think about what are organizations in your community that have money, like a club, for example, and then do research on their website and see if you can find a scholarship. And maybe even if they don't have one, you could always contact somebody there. And maybe you could pitch a scholarship to them and say, this is my story. This is who I am as a student. This is what I'm trying to do. And I'm looking for scholarships. Would you or your organization be willing to fund or support or contribute to the effort? You never know who's going to say yes. I haven't actually done that, but I'm just saying, if you're really like coming up against a wall, there are probably a lot of people in your community who have businesses who can probably write it off as like some sort of tax credit, who might be willing to create a scholarship for you, even if it's not already there.
That's actually a really cool idea, that tax credit, local businesses, because I know a lot of businesses, they do try and incentivize, like the government tries to incentivize them to create foundations and donations, even if it doesn't exist. That's a great idea to find some ways to fund your education while also helping out a business get some tax benefits.
Yeah, and you can also think of like, what can you contribute to them? And can you provide any sort of advertisement to them somehow, or maybe they get to put like a blurb about you on their website, or think of everything in terms of like a mutual relationship. If you're asking somebody for something, then how are you also going to benefit them in some way or in the long run? And also think of scholarships as investments. People are investing in you because they believe that you have potential and they want to help you meet that potential, or they believe that you're going to get to a certain point in your career. Something I'm thinking about is like, maybe you want to be a writer or in the medical field, so when you're looking for organizations to reach out to, maybe you can hone it in on that, because when they're thinking about their investment to you, it's like, well, after I graduate, then I'll be able to contribute to this field, which makes it more likely. And also just sharing with them what you want to do with the degree, even if that ends up changing. Like everything I said on all my scholarship applications is not what I ended up doing, and that's fine. But let them know that like you have a plan, like you're a motivated student, you have somewhere you want to go, but you need help to get there, and that'll probably make it more likely that they'll be willing to help you.
Dang, that's so crazy.
I know, I didn't think of that when I was in high school. I actually just thought of that right now. But hey, it could work. Like, people have money. You'd be surprised how many people are willing to give that money towards a good cause that they feel like is really going to help somebody.
Especially if they're like a small local business within your community.
Yeah. And then also, I had a scholarship from our fire department. So I'm not sure if every fire department does that, but, go as far as to think about maybe your local police department or fire department.
Piggybacking off of that even if it's a large company, if they have local smaller chapters, for instance, the YMCA, I'm in San Diego, there's a San Diego chapter. You're in Palo Alto. I'm assuming there's a YMCA chapter. If not, there's some other form of organization.
So just think about like, who are the organizations in your community, even if it's a YMCA.
Okay, so Kathy, I understand that you managed to help alleviate a lot of your college debt with these scholarships. I think you said you got like a bunch. So do you mind if I ask, how many did you get? How much did it actually help? Because oftentimes you hear people say, apply to scholarships. And then you apply and you maybe get like $200 one out here, and then you're kind of discouraged and you're thinking it's not even worth my time. So
I think I had 7 scholarships when I graduated high school, and a total of over $30,000.
damn, for real?
Yeah.
Man.
Over 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Some of them.
But still, that's not like a large chunk.
I don't know if I applied to like the PG&E scholarship or not. I just I have a vague memory of there being a scholarship for that. And those bigger ones I did not get or hear back from. But the local ones I did. And Chris, you were saying you had a similar experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so no elaborating there.
Like how the bigger scholarships were harder to get and the smaller ones weren't as hard to get, and they were more accessible. And you kind of get to meet the people who are actually funding those scholarships too. The college, like the high school counselors at my high school who were advertising, letting us know about those scholarships, are really nice. And they said, hey, this is the best way to apply. This is what we're looking for. And then you can really suit your application for that versus a national one where you're just like, why do I have to write all these essays?
And then let's say you do like one scholarship application and they have you write 3 essays, okay? And it's your first one. So then take those 3 essays, use, like I said, whatever parts of those that you can in other essays. So then you're not really writing a brand new essay every time you submit. You're really taking a piece of something you've already written that's good and then crafting it a little bit for this particular scholarship. If it's a scholarship question that's like, a college essay question, it's like, what excites you about our program? And you've already written about why you want to work in the medical field. You could take some of that and then add some details about their program specifically that make it seem like you've done your research into their program without writing like a completely new thing. So that's what ends up happening. And then the more scholarships and colleges you apply to, the more essays you're going to have. and then the more you'll be able to take home more places. But it usually comes down to like the same core 1 to 3 essays, and you usually just keep taking from those, and like I said, reworking them and rewording them to fit the specific thing that you're being asked or the specific place that you're applying to.
Yeah, so I have pretty much the exact same system, and that's the advice I give.
As far as how to write the essay, the advice is to leave them with a sense of who you are. Firstly, don't be a generic student. I've read some essays online that were really successful that have nothing to even do really with the college or anything like that. It's like people are writing about random stuff like the science experiment that they did in class, or we're doing fencing, but they're able to make a story out of it that reveals something about themselves. So then I know that this person's really passionate about music, and somehow that made them want to study history. And that's more important than them just saying like, here's my resume, I was in this club and this club, and I volunteered here and here and here, but I still don't really know you. But I know that this person is like deeply rooted in like this type of music, and that makes me feel like I know the student. So let them like know something about you. Like you can take a moment in your life and make a little story out of it that reveals something about you, and then you can tie it into like either what you learned from that experience or what you're going to bring to their college, like how that affects what you're going to bring to their school, whether it's like a personality thing or maybe it's being very outgoing and trying new things, or whatever it is. Just don't be a generic. I think that's something I could have improved on, is probably like not worrying so much about what I think they wanted to hear, and just really like trying to give them something about me to latch onto was the other thing. And then also, if they ask you multiple essay questions, reveal something different about yourself.
That's fantastic. Basically just you're saying make your word count.
Okay.
What would be your advice when you're asking for a letter of rec? Like, who do you pick and how do you go about it?
So someone from your school, or maybe a coach, is probably, or if you're maybe an intern or a volunteer somewhere, like somebody who is under the umbrella of a credible like organization, even if that's your school or the church, maybe. Those would be good places to get letters of rec. You want to pick somebody has a positive view of you. Don't pick your teacher who you turn in every assignment late to, and like who you're late to class every day. And like that was me first period, like all throughout high school.
Oh no.
Friends like knew me for like being late to school like every single day. So obviously I might not pick that teacher to be the one to write my letter of rec, but hopefully you have a teacher who's seen a more positive side of you, or who you really enjoy their class. Maybe they've seen that you put a lot of effort into like your writing or your math, or you always take the makeup tests when you get a chance. Or so pick a teacher is a good one who's seen that you've worked hard in their class. Don't feel like that you're wasting their time, because teachers, especially teachers who teach seniors, are expecting this. They know that students are going to be asking them for letters of rec. So you're not wasting their time. I remember thinking like, oh, I don't really know if like any of these teachers know me super well. Like I didn't really connect enough with them. But I think for the most part, if you've put effort into their class, they'll be able to think of some good things about you. They might actually even know you better than you think that they do. Even if you haven't like really had one-on-one conversations a lot, they've seen your work ethic, hopefully. And then as far as asking, I would try to ask in person. Just go on like lunch, or whenever you have a break, and just say, hi, Mrs. Whoever, like I was wondering if you could write me a letter of recommendation. Biggest thing is to do it early. Don't wait until like the week that the letters due, because you have to remember that these teachers are also going to be writing other students letters of rec. So give them at least a few weeks to do it. If you do wait to the last minute, like you could still ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, but just know like you're putting them in a tighter spot. So do it early, do it in person.
Like, how long should you ask ahead of time?
Probably like 2 to 4 weeks. Like 2 would be like probably on the closer side. Probably like 3 or 4 weeks would be good. If you're not sure and you're thinking about this like well in advance, you could also ask your teacher like, how much time would you need? I don't know, but at least 2 weeks. They could turn that around quickly. And I think honestly, I was a little bit last minute asking for my recommendations too, but don't ask for it like a few days before. Like that's just going to be harder for them to do. They might still do it if they really like you, but give them at least a couple of weeks.
Well, Kathy, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Where
can people find you if they want to connect with you?
That's a great question. I'm not, unfortunately, on very much social media. I'm on Facebook.
You're still on Facebook? You're 23?
Do you want me to give like an email? What is a good way for people to contact me?
Well, usually you can just do Instagram so you can ignore their DMs, but
Yeah, I don't have one.
damn. Well, you know what, Kathy, we're gonna
List
make
my
you...
email on like when you post the video on the website. You can list.
Oh yeah, let's put it
Down below. Perfect. Well, Kathy, thank you so much. I do appreciate you.
and I'll see you all in the next one.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Bye.
Don't leave though.
Okay, just stop the recording.
I didn't know how to stop it.
Okay, well, whatever. You can just cut that out later.